Hi, so my name is Kayla Clark, and these are my top 10 sociological concepts. So, my first concept is colorblind racism. So, colorblind racism is ignoring legitimate racial, ethnic, and cultural differences between groups, thus denying the reality of such differences. So, basically, this goes into depth about how, it's a privilege to not be able to see race or not acknowledge race and stuff like that. And this picture on the side goes into depth about this. And then this basically shows like a medically colorblind person test that would take versus like the artistic version of it. So it's showing like a black boy, basically how like a colorblind test would be taken. So deviance is the behavior that is recognized as violating expected rules and norms. So an example of deviance would be women working in history and stuff like that, and how women, it was like looked down upon if a woman was working because that was considered a man's job. So a woman is expected to be in the kitchen or taking care of the children and stuff like that. So deviance definitely plays a part in that, and the wage gap kind of goes into depth with that. So gender is socially learned expectations and behaviors associated with members of each sex. So with this topic, I just kind of wanted to go into depth about how it's a difference between sex and gender and how many people believe that it's interchangeable. So sex and gender are not interchangeable. Sex is the biological parts that you were born with. So if you have biological sex parts of a male versus biological parts of a female, is no denying biology. But gender roles that in regards to like who works versus who takes care of the children, those are all constructs. So social imagination is the ability to see societal patterns that influence individual and group life. So I decided to, using my sociological imagination, I decided to go into depth about the strain theory, which was coin turned by Merton. So people would say people that still are thugs, but the strain theory goes to the idea where you don't know that boys or young ladies or whoever's background that led them to possibly stealing. You're not looking at the systemic issues or the strain that they were feeling that led them to commit that deviant act. So debunking is looking behind the facades of everyday life. So it's like a common belief that Black people have, it's like, well, not like extremely common, but in some doctors and nurses and stuff like that believe that Black people have thicker skin, or when they're in pain, they're like overreacting and stuff like that. So debunking is looking past that. So what's been, said many times in history as justification to test on slaves and stuff like that, that slaves and Black people cannot feel pain. And although slavery is looked down upon today, many of those societal beliefs and things like that have been passed down generational. So no slavery today, but you still have health officials that believe that Black people have thicker skin or can't feel pain. Ethnocentrism is the belief that one in-group is superior to all out-groups. So I kind of connected this to how I feel like people associating people's other cultures or practices with the devil or demons or evil is definitely like ethnocentric and stuff like that, because simply because you don't understand something or something might be foreign to you, it's not your place to call it evil or devil, or even force your religion and like religious practices onto it as well. So white spaces is the perception Black people have of places where they are typically absent, not expected, or marginalized when present. So white spaces, like many Black people know about this, where they know that they're like the oddball out kind of. So because of so many white spaces, especially in history and different things like that, the importance of Black spaces have been emphasized a lot. So you have HBCUs like Morgan State, you have Black student unions in predominantly white schools and stuff like that. You have Black Twitter, which is like a safe Black space version of Twitter and stuff like that. So you have different places that are safe spaces for Black people, considering that our feelings and our thoughts and our beliefs have been invalidated for so long. So heterosexism is institutional structures that define heterosexuality as the only legitimate sexual orientation. So this goes into like gay marriage being legalized in 2015. So the ability for two consenting adults, whether it's a woman and a woman or a man or a woman and a man and stuff like that, like just 5 years ago that was legalized on the basis of nothing and stuff like that. So you can just see that that's heterosexism on an institutional level. So it's a structure in place there. He was telling you you cannot marry this person. So that's like pure heterosexism. So socialization agents. So socialization agents are those who pass on social expectations. So one thing that I thought of is like family and stuff like that, especially in Black households. Typically, it's looked down upon to speak on mental health because it's like you have a roof over your head, you have clothes, you have food in your mouth. There's no reason why you should be depressed or have anxiety when that's not necessarily what mental health is about. You could be a billionaire, have everything in the world, all the resources that you need, and still have depression and stuff like that. So, you know, many people from this generation, Black people from this generation, are trying to break that generational curse of, you know, being able to come to parents and grandparents, stuff like that, about mental health. So the assimilation theory is the process by which minority group becomes absorbed into a whole society. So I believe an example of assimilation theory would be straightening hair. So of course it's okay, it's fine to wear your hair however you want, a weave, a wig, whatever, but it just becomes a problem where a person cannot wear the natural hair growing out of their heads, and it's looked at as unprofessional or, you know, rowdy or and things like that, and how it impacts people systemically. So in the corner is this boy right here. He was playing basketball and apparently he couldn't play because his hair, because the locks that he had and stuff like that, they had to be cut out because apparently they weren't appropriate. And that's like extremely anti-Black. Locks are an important part of Black culture and stuff like that. And then to tell this boy that they're, you know, they're not deemed fit, and then to cut them out of his head in the middle of a game is extremely like forced assimilation to like the max, like borderline like blatant racism and stuff like that. So yeah, that was all of my 10 terms, stuff like that. I had a really good time in this class and I really enjoyed it.